Hello and welcome to With AuDHD SAS, Amanda Jayne Thrives. Today, we are going to be talking about AuDHD and movement. I've used movement as a substitute for the word exercise, so it's not going to be going into the particulars of movement, but we'll get into that. So starting where you are with what you've got. And that's the same really sentiment with going on lives and creating content sometimes. I am fresh off a run. So I am hot. I am pink. Mind you, there is a little bit of I don't know why I put the tint on because I knew I was going to be pink after a run, but anyway, so today was the first run I've done in 2026. I haven't been to the gym yet. And it's kind of a starting as you mean to go on kind of vibe. It's going with what energy I have, what capacity I have versus capability. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, and where the subheading is starting where you are with what you've got. I mean, if we're going to go into, context of why am I talking about this? So of course I'm late recognized AuDHD. I had my autism diagnosis formally not October past, the October before. And I first started working in the fitness industry in 2008. So like a hot minute ago. In my career, I worked, various places in the UK and everywhere from reception all the way up to influencing decisions that were made in head office in some of the biggest fitness companies in the UK, if not the world in some cases. So now, of course, a lot of the things that I do is teaching online, and it's more rooted in self-discovery and journaling and reverse engineering what you actually want to do rather than, doing what you think you have to do, rather than teaching the exercise itself. Though this week I taught my first in-person classes in 6 years. So I've been recovering in a big way from that, because that was 2 months of setup. And of course, all the, the build up of the nerves and the anticipation of the uncertainty, not even just returning after so long, but, it's in a different environment with different people that I've never met before in lots of cases. So I'm being really kind of like gentle with myself at the moment. And for me, some rest, rest is active rest. A lot of my rest is active rest. So doing things like running is stimmy for me, and helps me to then sort of relax and rest better than if I was to go and just try and force myself to stay still, because I don't always then get a good sleep. So, yeah. Now it's just thinking, where do I want to start with this? Because when I was on my run, I've been thinking about this for a little while through the week, through many weeks, if I'm honest. And for me, how I came back into exercise was when I was at university. And I wrote a little bit about this in one of the parts of my book that I haven't yet published. And I'd started so I'll skip the first part, but I started running because I wanted to do a couch to 5K. And what I found while I was doing was, not only was it really difficult, it was so hard. Because when I was at university, I was just eating a lot of junk food, like really lots of takeaways and stuff like that, and nothing really in the way of vegetables at all. And at the same time, I was obviously drinking a lot and I was smoking a lot, so it was never going to feel great going for a run. But anyway, the other sort of side of it was that I recognized that the discomfort and the pain that I felt while I was running was a fair trade-off for how I'd felt after I'd finished running. at that time, I didn't understand what trauma was or depression or anxiety. I just knew I didn't feel good. At the time, so when I went to university, of course, I would have been 18. So my dad had died, maybe maybe 3 years prior to me starting university from alcohol addiction. And my mum had dropped into alcohol addiction. So there was a lot going on, and I didn't have any words for these things. I didn't have any grief counseling or any of these, mental health wasn't a thing that you discussed, didn't talk about. So when I started to do running and I started to feel this sense of release and this sense of being able to process it without processing it, I was like, oh, okay, I like this because this makes me feel better. And of course, it would be years before I'd understand kind of what was happening there. Of course, in the few weeks afterwards, I was it was getting easier because your cardiovascular system, irrespective of how fit you are, it takes about 3 weeks for it to, start to feel like something that you can kind of do, for your cardiovascular capacity to kind of like increase, if you like. But it diminishes just as quickly. So that's why if you start and do like 2 or 3 weeks and it's really, really difficult and you haven't quite gotten used to it yet, and then you stop and then leave it for more than 3 weeks and then start again, that you can end up building association with exercise just being hard and really, really awful and terrible. And I was saying to somebody the other day, because of course it's not it's yoga I'm teaching at the moment, and functional movement, so functional body weight movement, rather than spinning, which 10 years ago, I would be teaching up to 12 spin classes a week. So what I would do is after like the Christmas holidays, I would return to London and I would get on the bike quite a lot so that I could get my fitness back up to be able to teach spinning to people. Because of course you're teaching, but you're also speaking. So that's kind of like an example, right? But yeah, so also for me, exercise, as I'm saying with the sort of trauma, I didn't understand. I didn't know what trauma was. I didn't really understand much about, addiction and being in that, environment and how it was impacting me. And because, school were still trying to sort of like force me to be there all the time, and there was no sort of support there, just kind of criticism. Um, and the running started to make me feel better. It helped me to start sort of conceptualizing what was happening within my body and my mind, or start processing aspects of and managing aspects of the trauma that I was experiencing and had experienced by giving it some sort of physical or tangible form. I don't know whether I'm really explaining this super well, but I think as I go on, it's going to make a little bit more sense. This is why, as somebody that works within the fitness industry, and has worked in the fitness industry, I am very AuDHD in my way of teaching and my methods, because I believe that, there's something we're all good at, and I don't just mean autistic and ADHD people, I mean everybody. There's something that we are really good at that comes really naturally to us, that we just do, or that it's easier to access the motivation to do it because you understand the mechanics of what you're doing and the potential feelings and barriers that you face, for you to be able to be like, okay, so I understand if I can do this, then I'm going to arrive here, right? So for some people, it will be business. For some people, it will be writing, these different things. So for me, movement, food, biology, biomechanics, biochemical, everything was a really, the understanding these things helped me to make my healing or what I was feeling and moving through tangible. It helped me to understand that you have to go through some really sticky, icky, hard, not the easiest things to do to get fitter, to increase your resilience, to increase your tenacity as well, if you like. Because when you're doing exercise and it feels really hard, feels really difficult. Now, this is not taking into account any specific, you know, medical issues or things that make things more difficult, but from just the perspective of you're going from never done it to doing it on a regular basis in whatever form that looks like. It's always going to feel really, really difficult at the beginning because your body needs to adapt to it. And if you are working with your body instead of against it, so not pushing way past your energetic boundaries, way against your, capacity, be that physically, not so much mentally, because there's going to be an element of having to push past mentally, but if you're not really over giving more than you've got. So something that happens quite a lot in January is everybody gets really excited, that whole go hard kind of mentality, and over plans. And then when it's not sustainable, ends up quitting because it feels like you failed at something that wasn't built for you. When you underplan to over deliver, so working out what you understand that you know that you've got, be that time wise, I'll use the word motivation lightly, but motivation wise. So if you know that it's going to be really difficult to want to get into, say, like a gym or into a class or anything, planning to do that 5 times a week and tough it out is setting yourself up to fail because the barrier to entry is too high, right? Where was I going with this? Yeah. So when you're not doing that, so when you've planned it in such a way where you're going, okay, I can absolutely do 20 minutes twice a week going for a walk, and you know that you can do that comfortably. What you do is you're then allowing yourself or setting yourself up to overachieve, which is going to help you to build your confidence. We're destroying our confidence when we set like a goal of, I'm going to go to the gym and do this really intense exercise class 5 times a week, even though the gym makes me feel really socially anxious and I've not done this before. That the bar is really high there. So you maybe manage it for the first week, or maybe you even end up missing one in that first week. And already it feels like a demand, like a really high demand, something that's going to be tricky to sustain. Sorry, I'm not at home, so there's all sorts of things that are happening here. Yeah. But even then, so when you start something that is small, so you've planned something that's small, achievable, you want to celebrate yourself massively for doing that, journaling, writing it down, sharing it with, if not publicly, sharing it with somebody that that you love and trust, who you know is going to celebrate with you, loudly, even if it's to yourself. So I celebrate myself loudly a lot of the times, because, I don't always get it from, externally. And then anything you do is a bonus. And if you find afterwards that you're able to do one more session more a week, you don't need to increase your baseline of 2 up until you've got that, say, third one set. So this is kind of where the starting where you are, with what you've got is really powerful because you're giving yourself the opportunity to build your confidence and build your trust in yourself, to do what you want to do. But at the same time, it's not going to eliminate the discomfort. There's always going to be days where it's really challenging or you don't want to do it. And this is where, like in my online courses and stuff, this is where the self-discovery stuff comes in because of interoception challenges and stuff. It can be really challenging to work out whether you're emotionally tired, mentally tired, or physically tired, because they're both going to manifest as physical tiredness. And my way around that, sorry, they're fixing a wall. I'm going to move where it's maybe a bit quieter. I don't know whether you hear that. What was I saying? Does anyone remember what I'm saying that's watching? Sorry, where you got? Oh yeah. So you don't know whether you're physically tired or mentally or emotionally tired. And if you're mentally and emotionally tired, and it's showing up as physical tiredness, if you go and do a warm up for 5 minutes, the fog will likely start to lift, and you might want to carry on. If you are physically exhausted, it's not going to lift. It's not going to shift. You're going to stay tired, and your body definitely needs rest. So that's one sort of simple way to figure out whether exercise is going to benefit you or whether it's going to set you back. But I think especially with being AuDHD, there's no, like, as someone that's been training for, more than 20 years, there are still days I'm like, I don't know. So I'm just going to have to try and see what I've got and figure out if this is the right thing for me. It's so personal. And I think this is where we miss the mark in a lot of trainings in exercise that are sort of centered around diet culture, even wellness culture, because it's all very one size fits all and it's all very reductive. And if there's one thing that you know about being autistic and ADHD is that no two AuDHDers, autistic and ADHDers are the same. No two neurotypical people are the same. So the things that we have to do are going to be different from somebody else. So it's great to have an idea. This is why I personally, when I'm personally and professionally doing things, work from a model of reverse engineering, because it's taking what is actually going to engage your interest and your desire to want to do it. So finding something that you really want to do and working out how to make that work versus doing something that you think that you have to do and forcing yourself to make it work. Because it's neither enjoyable nor is it really sustainable. But the way that I've been able to, or the way that recently I've been sort of engaging my own, what I like to do, I've said this in a couple of recordings and podcasts and stuff before, is I will frequently learn something new that challenges me and humbles me into feeling or being, a beginner again, because it keeps me in the right place to coach from a real place of integrity. Because I think with the quick fix and the fast results culture that there is now, so many of us are so scared to be beginners, so scared to do something badly, don't want to go through that sort of messy part where you suck. And it's where you suck that you learn the most, you grow the most, you develop the most, you give yourself the capacity to get really good at something that you want to do. Because we don't learn from when something's perfect. We learn from finding something that doesn't work that well, or where we've got a limitation, and it makes you get creative and go, okay, so how can I work with this? Whereas again, in the, set plans domain, there's no room for that. And there's a lot of moving way, way, way past your capacity and stuff, which can lead to injury. So another thing that I see quite a lot is people wanting to start running and going to and having a goal of weight loss at the same time as wanting to get their speed up, and the two don't really work together because you're going to essentially quite likely get injured. But that's another conversation for another day. Circle back to humbling myself. So I wanted to learn the skill of DJing. So this is where the name came from. So I did that last year, and I talked about that on the last podcast as well. And I did a post on starting where you are with what you've got. So because I have, lots of new ideas or hobbies or interests that pop up that I want to do, I've kind of got it down to an art now, where I will do what I can with what I've got before I will significantly invest. So my first 4 DJ mixes are done on my phone. So, are done on my phone, and I used a course where I learned everything I could on the free trial before I did, and just practice and practice and practiced. And now I know it's something I want to continue. It's going to be easier for me to then invest and invest well in terms of time and money with it, because I've already developed an understanding of what my desires are, what I want to do with it, how I want to do it, what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are. The type of music that I typically listen to is different from the type of music that I most enjoy DJing with. So it's really similar with when it comes to exercise and nutrition and all these different things as well. You might have ideals or plans or goals that you want to achieve. But until you actually get in and start doing it, you don't know whether you do actually like it or not. You might find that you end up enjoying something so much more differently. When you start, your goals are going to shift. Maybe not entirely, but they're going to shift in some way compared with before you started. Yeah. So it's just a few little things to sort of think about. I was going to go on a little bit longer, but I'm aware of the fact I've only got, less than 10% battery left. And maybe it's better to not leave with too many thoughts, because I know that I use a lot of metaphors and go in lots of different directions with this. But I think it's really important to, think about starting where you are with what you've got, and go from there. So if you find that helpful, or if you've got any questions, just let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time.